and thanks for joining us on Chicago Tonight. I'm Brandis Friedman. Here's what we're looking at.
We still have issues with drug use, not as much as before.
How a new state law puts more Cook County Sheriff's Police on the L and how it's working. What's on the move at Chicago's airports? We talk with the city's aviation commissioner.
We're focused on civil liberties like everybody else. We just want to be treated human.
Inside a Southside center where transgender Chicagoans are finding support.
Pizza! Chicago's famous for its deep dish pies.
And with the holiday weekend coming up, you might be thinking about food. We tell you about the diverse origins of some all-American foods created right here in Chicago. First off tonight, Chicago's U.S. attorney touts the results of a multi-agency crime sweep that rounded up nearly 180 criminal defendants over just the last 2 months. Andrew Boutros told reporters why his federal prosecutor's office took on some of these cases versus leaving them in Cook County. He says his office has a great relationship with Cook County State's Attorney Eileen O'Neill Burke. It's the Cook County judges he has a problem with.
Because what you see are people who are violent offenders, repeat violent offenders, that the Cook County judges decide to release on pretrial condition. And here's the trick that they pull. They'll detain them at the first initial appearance. And then on the second appearance, because that's when the numbers count. And then on the second appearance, they release them back into the streets and into the communities. And how many cases have the feds charged since I've been U.S. Attorney where there was a failure on the part of Cook County judges to detain people?
Boutros says under Operation New Dawn, 11 federal agencies collaborated on a range of cases, including kidnapping resulting in death, gun trafficking, drug trafficking, immigration violations, and child exploitation. He says the operation resulted in 179 criminal defendants and 140 new criminal cases, apprehended 305 fugitives, and located 24 kidnapped children. Boutros didn't say much about his office's response to the Broadview 6 case and its fallout, but scolded journalists in the room for, quote, reckless reporting. Says he'll have more to say on that in court filings in the coming weeks. While the number of people killed in Chicago so far this year is slightly higher than this time last year, it is still well below the pace of recent years. New Chicago Police Department data shows there were 210 murders in the first half of 2026, compared to 199 in 2025, a 6% increase. This year's total marks the second fewest in the city for the first half of the year since 2015. While shootings are up 4% year over year, robberies, carjackings, and burglaries are all down. CPD also says violent crime on CTA buses and trains is also down 28%. We'll have more on the latest effort to counter violence on the CTA in a moment. And just in time for the 4th, a pair of baby eagles on the city's southeast side have brand new names. The pair are the first to hatch in a Chicago park in 100 years. Meet McGeezy and Marion. McGeezy means bald eagle in the Ojibwe language, and Marion is for Marion Burns, the late environmental and civil rights activist whose namesake Chicago Park is near the eagle's nest. The Park District received more than 3,000 entries in the naming contest. The department says the birds took their first flight earlier this week. Up next, new efforts to keep the public transit system safe right after this.
Chicago Tonight is made possible in part by the Alexandra and John Nichols family, the Polk Brothers Foundation, and the support of these donors.
We just mentioned that violent crime on CTA buses and L trains has gone down by 28%, and on some lines, even more. That may be in part because of a law enforcement effort introduced by the state's new Northern Illinois Transit Authority, created to replace the Regional Transportation Authority. The bill that created the agency to oversee the CTA, Metra, and PACE also created a task force where area law enforcement agencies partner to put the brakes on transit crimes. We recently rode along with Cook County Sheriff's deputies to see how they got on track.
Hey.
Most folks riding the CTA won't witness a scene like this. A handful of sheriff's police officers going car to car while riding the L.
We found that if we keep moving, we can actually hit all the cars and everything else like that. Again, we're back where we started at. And officers, as you can see, are going back and forth, doing the same thing. Now, they do that because each stop, people get off and other people get on, they have not encountered. So it works. It's very effective, actually. So.
This group of officers is focusing on the Green Line, riding from Harlem and Lake Station over to Damon and back.
So far, thank you.
They're led by Sergeant Frank Washington, who's heard feedback from passengers and CTA staff.
I ride this train every day. I feel safer. I feel better. The employees, 95th Street Station at one time was filled with a lot of drugs, a lot of drug smell, a lot of drug dealing.
They're working under a new task force led by Cook County Sheriff Tom Dart. It was created by the state's Northern Illinois Transit Authority Act, or NITA, that went into effect this year. Since March, the sheriff has placed teams of officers, 50 per day, working 12-hour shifts on the green and red lines.
We started going out into the public transportation routes on trains, buses, to see what the reality was. We met with the bus drivers, the unions that represent them, the ones that represent the train drivers.
The first big problem they found, fare evasion.
We found that in numerous train stations, numerous ones, that 80 to 90% of the people were not paying. So virtually everybody was going on for free. There isn't any personnel that was there to stop it. I'm happy to say once we put people up there, it's now zero.
Next, officers began keeping an eye out for other violations: smoking, drinking on the train, transferring between moving cars. The idea is that sweating the smaller details leads to a safer ride.
We found, I think, like 20 weapons on people. We arrested 250 people for a range of offenses. God, we executed, I think, about 50, 60 warrants for people. We found 10 missing people, people who are in the system as missing persons, mostly juveniles too. We were able to reunite with either family or whatever the structure was. We found 10 people not registered as sex offenders we were able to take in custody.
The day our cameras rode along, within an hour, officers stopped a man for smoking and learned he had an arrest warrant. The sheriff's office says they've lowered fare evasion alone by 85% on the red line. The office also says CTA's own stats show a 77% reduction in violent crime May of this year compared to last year, and a 50% reduction in overall crime May over May as well. There are also the train passengers who need a little extra help. For that, people like Elizabeth Capua and her team are paired with officers to provide services for mental health, substance use disorder, or homelessness.
Sometimes it's the only place that we might be able to reach them. So, you have a lot of individuals that are houseless, that are, undomiciled, that don't have a place to stay and are utilizing the trains for warmth in the winter, for a space to be, our shelters are overrun.
Both the officers and the treatment and response team members added to their training so they could conduct their jobs while in transit. Now, after 20 years in mental help, this is where Capua feels she's finally seen movement.
Of the times I've been a part of the mental health system and working in it, this is the first time I feel like I'm actually helping people. I'm not just a cog in the system. I'm making a difference, and that feels good.
The man who you saw who was arrested during our ride-along was facing warrants for failing to appear in court on charges of retail theft and possession of a controlled substance. The sheriff, meanwhile, will make recommendations to the NITA board about how the task force has been going. Then the board will decide whether to continue or if a unified transit police force is necessary. Every 30 seconds, a plane takes off or lands in Chicago. Some of you may even be on one of them this weekend to enjoy the holiday. The city's airports have worked around the clock for decades to connect Chicago to the world, but constant service presents constant challenges. Joining us to talk about modernizing the airports while still meeting travelers' needs is the Commissioner of Chicago's Department of Aviation, Michael McMurray. Commissioner, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me.
So what can travelers expect at Chicago airports this weekend?
Well, this will be one of the busiest weekends in 4th of July, in O'Hare's history during the 4th of July weekend. Between both of our airports, we're expecting about 2 million passengers to pass through our airports. So I would highly advise passengers to arrive early and pack their patience.
Yeah, going to be busy.
Yes.
You took over as Aviation Commissioner last May, critical time, of course, for O'Hare's expansion, concession contracts, and more. What experience did you bring to the role? How did you step in as a newcomer?
Well, I have a background in government in aviation and procurement, as well as a background in construction in the private sector. So a strong understanding of how these fields align and what good collaboration looks like between public sector and private sector, which is critical and key in my role at the Chicago Department of Aviation, because aviation is a business of collaboration and partnership.
Okay, obviously partnership with the other airlines as well, in addition to the other vendors and contractors you have to work with.
Exactly.
How would you say then you've navigated relationships with the mayor's office, city council, other airport stakeholders during your first year?
Again, it's great. Again, this is a business of collaboration, and I've received all the support that I need, obviously, from the mayor's office, and our airline partners, both at O'Hare and Midway airports, have been fantastic.
Okay. How do you sort of tackle any challenges that there might be with, council members or other stakeholders in the city who might not agree with some of the changes or the steps that are being taken, the money that's being spent?
Well, everybody, council members, the city, our airline partners, we all understand how critical O'Hare is to the national aviation system. And we all understand how important it is to continue to invest in our airport system. We have one of the most comprehensive airport systems in the world, one of the most connected airport systems in the world. And I think we all understand that it's very important for this generation of Chicagoans to continue to invest in our airport system, and particularly at O'Hare and our facilities, to make sure that they are sustainable, digital, and able to meet the capacity that we have at our airports.
Speaking of, investing, O'Hare is in the process of a major expansion to the tune of about $1.45 billion. What can you tell us about that expansion project? Sure.
So right now at O'Hare, we have our O'Hare Capital Improvement Project going on. That's the ORD Next. That's the $8.8 billion capital improvement program, which consists of 2 new concourses and also a global terminal, which is the centerpiece of the program itself. The construction project launched last summer. We broke ground on our Concourse D this past fall, and that Concourse D is $1.4 billion. It consists of 590,000 square feet, 19 new gates, more comfortable and modern spaces for passengers, greater flexibility across aircraft types, and it's about smoother connections between domestic and international flights, particularly for our hub carriers.
Okay. Who's paying for that?
The airlines are.
The airlines are paying for that.
Our airline partners are, and they've been great. They're at O'Hare and Midway. We're very grateful for the investments that both of our major airlines, American and United, our hometown airline, that they've continued to make at our airport there and over the years. And at Midway, it's Southwest Airline.
Will passengers at all, travelers, will they be impacted by this construction? Will they notice?
No, right now at Concourse D at O'Hare, a lot of preparation has gone into preparing that site for the construction of Concourse D. And, going forward, you'll see if any effects on operations because of the preparation that went into that work to start. Interestingly enough, in a couple of weeks, passengers there will see, at O'Hare, will see a 14-foot tall crane on the construction site for Concourse D, which will be interesting to see an actual 14-foot crane, on the world's busiest airfield.
Yeah. So the Federal Aviation Administration, it ordered the cut of about 300 flights a day this summer at O'Hare. In the announcement, Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy said, quote, "Applying that same strategy at O'Hare, where unrealistic schedules were set to dramatically exceed what they could handle, will reduce delays and make this busy summer travel season a little easier." What was your reaction to a cut of this size?
Well, I think it's important to remember first and foremost that the restrictions on flights, the temporary limitations on flights at O'Hare, they're temporary, and they only last through October of this year. And they still allow for growth when you look at last summer compared to this summer. At the end of the day, O'Hare has one of the most robust airfields in the world. 8 runways, more than any other commercial airport on the planet. And we feel, the Department of Aviation feels, that we're able to efficiently and safely operate our airfield without any artificial restrictions or limitations on the market. At the end of the day, we all agree, all parties agree that O'Hare is so critical to the national aviation system that it deserves the highest levels of air traffic controllers, training, procedures, and infrastructure needed to make sure that we continue to grow at the airport. One of the things that we're doing at the Chicago Department of Aviation is investing in that infrastructure, investing in those facilities, which again is part of our ORD Next program at O'Hare.
Okay, so what would you say has been the impact of those flight cuts so far?
You know, it's early, and you know, we're still collecting the statistics on it. The cuts just went in June 2nd. And so, you know, during this very short period, we've seen some delays, but those delays have been consistent with what we've seen historically, right? So due to weather events, past performance, and really as a result of O'Hare being the hub for 2 of the busiest airlines, you know, in the world.
You know, you mentioned O'Hare deserves and needs, of course, like the highest trained air traffic controllers, et cetera. And with so many changes in the federal workforce, what is the pipeline like for, you know, new essential airport staff like TSA or air traffic controllers?
I think that's more of a question for the federal government, but I do know that they are working very hard to have more air traffic controllers for the system, not just here at O'Hare, but nationwide.
Okay. We talk about O'Hare a lot, and we don't forget about Midway.
Yes.
Are there infrastructure improvements going on there? We know, like, the interior, the terminal at Midway has undergone a lot of change. Is there any infrastructure happening there as well?
Sure. You know, just last year we completed our $47 million Midway modernization program, where we upgraded and prioritized our main runway at O'Hare, mainly around safety features. But, you know, this year we've seen positive momentum at Midway Airport, particularly in terms of passenger growth. So we just, for the first quarter of this year, we posted positive growth at Midway International Airport. And that's primarily due to the investment that our main carrier there, Southwest, has made, and also Frontier. And, you know, also later this month, we'll be going to City Council to extend the agreements we have with our private aircraft operators at Midway. They're investing $150 million in airport facilities there.
More investments there. That is where we'll have to leave it. Best of luck to you this weekend, Aviation Commissioner Michael McMurray. We appreciate you.
Thank you, Brandis. Thank you for having me.
Up next, how one organization is serving trans Chicagoans. Transgender rights are at the center of political and legal battles across the country. One Southside organization is focused on creating a place where people can simply be themselves. Our Joanna Hernandez takes us inside the center in Hyde Park.
Honey, this has been my voice since like day one, where so many people was like, even when I was a guy, like, no, you're not. That's not your baby. Baby's all. That's me.
Coates has been coming to Brave Space Alliance for the past 2 years.
Beyond just the services you get community here. Girl, yes, honey. Hi, Courtney. Sending you loving energies, beautiful.
Today, she's stopping by the Dignity Suite. It's a free closet where people shop for clothes, makeup, and accessories.
Oh, welcome to the closet.
Look at this. Yes.
You know, you're able to get 5 tops and 5 bottoms.
For Trinity Coates, clothes have been a way to express who she is.
You can never go wrong with having something black.
The center opened its doors in 2017 to help fill a gap in services for Black and brown transgender people on the South Side.
Health, housing, food, and identity are our main pillars that we basically go by, and we feel like that should, you know, provide essential services for a person to start their life and then build accordingly.
Those were struggles Coates knew firsthand.
You mentioned you've been homeless. You've mentioned how you've gone through the hardships, even with your family and acceptance. What keeps you going?
What keeps me going is knowing that that is not the end of the journey. To know that there's people who've been upon my journey who show me that even if the world is saying this, they do not agree. And they show that by the care, the love, and the community.
And advocates say the need remains significant.
I get calls every day. People come up here looking for me every day for housing. They asking for clothing, needing their hair done, needing their makeup done. And those are the services that we have here.
As federal policies affecting the transgender community continue to change, Brave Space Alliance says the need for its services hasn't. A 2022 U.S. transgender survey found half of transgender adults delayed or avoided medical care because of fear of being mistreated. Nearly 1 in 5 experienced homelessness in the previous year.
One thing I want to uplift about trans people is they're themselves. They don't want to be anybody else. So it's extremely disheartening to hear that medical things are stripped of individuals. They can't even receive certain medication.
Trinity came looking for support, but she also found someone she never expected. Chris Huerta is her childhood friend.
It's beautiful to see and to know that one of my very close friends who's helped me navigate this world as a queer person, whether she knew that during that time or not, she's been able to be very instrumental to the greater being that I am today, the service provider that I am today.
For Coates, the organization became more than a place to access services. It became proof community can change the course of someone's life.
Know that it starts with one step. We have the internet, we have different community spaces where if you are looking for somebody to at least talk to, spaces like this exist.
For Chicago Tonight, I'm Joanna Hernandez.
And Brave Space Alliance leaders say that regardless of the political climate, their work remains focused on building community and connecting people with the resources they need. Food. That is a major part of any holiday weekend. So as we head towards the 4th of July, we thought we'd show you the Chicago origins of some iconic foods. Here's our old pal, Amanda Vinicky.
Chicago is home to a plate full of iconic foods. The Italian beef sandwich was born here in the early 20th century. Gyros were introduced to America in Chicago during the mid-60s. As for dessert, the brownies said to have been invented at the Palmer House Hotel in 1893. But more than anything else, Chicago is known for its hot dogs and its pizza. In the late 18 and early 1900s, Chicago was butcher to the world. The stockyards were humming along. Needless to say, meat scraps were plentiful, as were Frankfurt-loving German immigrants in need of cheap eats. Enter the Chicago-style hot dog. Of course, this isn't just any dog. A true Chicago dog must be all beef, nestled in a steamed poppy seed bun, and dragged through the garden. Chicago's 7 standard toppings come from around the world and represent our immigrant roots. The poppy seed bun is here via Poland. The hot dog itself, the pickle spear, and mustard have Jewish and German roots. Diced white onions and sliced tomatoes, that's Italy and maybe Greece. The relish hails from England, although the unnatural neon color is all ours. Sports peppers rep the deep south and/or Mexico. And as one of the country's biggest celery producers at the time, Chicago's Lakeview community contributed the sprinkling of celery salt. Lore has it, vendors added so many toppings to the dog so it could serve as a meal on a bun for broke Chicagoans during the Depression. Still hungry? Feast on another Chicago staple, pizza! Chicago's famous for its deep dish pies, inches of pan-baked crust and oozing cheese covered in tangy tomato sauce and toppings, a creation largely credited to what is now Chicago's Pizzeria Uno in 1943. But locals know the real deal is thin crust, really thin. Also known as tavern style because it originated as a go-to treat in Chicago bars. After Prohibition was lifted, taverns encouraged customers to stay a while and drink more beer by offering snack-sized squares of cracker-thin pizza, often for free. The thin crust kept the pizza fast and cheap to make. The squares could be easily served on napkins, and the small slices wouldn't spoil supper. Unlike our hot dog, there aren't many rules around tavern-style pizza. Get it as thin as possible, slice it in squares, and top it with anything you like. I recommend Jardiniere, though Chicago pizza makers say sausage is the most popular. If you're still hungry, we can dish on other local delicacies, courtesy of Chicago Innovation, like the Pizza Puff, the Burrito, the Maxwell Street Polish, Saganaki.
It all sounds delicious. You can learn more about Chicago at WTTW.com/explains. And that's our show for this Thursday night. You can stream Chicago Tonight on our WTTW YouTube channel every evening and catch up on any programs you may have missed. We'll be off tomorrow for Independence Day, but we will see you right back here at 5:30 and 10 on Monday. Now, for all of us here at Chicago Tonight, I'm Brandis Friedman. Thank you for watching. Stay healthy and safe, and have a good night.
Closed captioning is made possible by Robert A. Clifford and Clifford Law Offices, a personal injury law firm working to preserve the dignity and rights of all individuals.